Cool. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, or morning, or wherever it is. This is Jason Stoddard of Schiit Audio. I'm going to actually attempt to learn a few things about digital today. And for that reason, we have Dave and Ivana from our digital team to answer your questions. We have a bunch of questions here, and I'm sure some will come in as we go through them. We tried to group them kind of logically, but we'll see how it goes. Dave, you want to say a few words about what you do at Schiit?
I most of all the digital hardware design, like circuit board design, layout, and so on, and also DSP software. And I've been doing it here with Schiit Audio and Mike, because I've known Mike. In about 6 months, it'll be 40 years knowing Mike. Yeah.
You beat me there.
Right now, by about 10.
40 years.
Yeah. And so, did similar work with Theta Digital in the past, from when it was sort of in a garage, like not unlike Schiit, onward, and surround processors for them and elsewhere in between, and yes.
Dave's being pretty
modest.
Pretty modest. Yeah, I mean, basically, he does everything. I do nothing. Mike does nothing. Ivana might do some stuff. We'll learn about that later. But basically, Dave does everything. Actually, not really, but we all do things. But Dave does a lot of stuff. He actually does a lot of the analog design on the DACs and things like that as well. So. He's deeply involved in what we do, so he should be able to answer a lot of questions, not only on digital, but basically DAC implementation. Mm-hmm. And Ivana, would you like to tell us all what you do, because it seems sometimes very esoteric?
Yes, I write software in short, and firmware since maybe a year or a little longer ago, which was a bit new for me. I haven't worked with hardware that much in the past. I've been a software engineer for many years. So at Schiit, I wrote software for a gadget, for example, did some audio processing algorithms, and I worked with Dave on implementing firmware for Unison and CD transport. So yeah, that's about it, and I have some other experiences, like working on doing research and music recommendation, but I've been always in audio domain.
Yeah, and Ivana, if anyone's kind of wondering what Ivana has done, and you may have heard of Unison USB, you can blame me, the evil marketing guy, for coming up with that name. But basically, she and Dave are the ones who worked out Unison USB, which is our own USB input receiver. And that's in a lot of our products now, and I think we're moving towards getting it in everything eventually, but we'll see how that goes. And with that, you want to take some questions? Because actually it's kind of a good segue into the first group of transport questions.
Let's start.
Updates about the Schiit transport. And the first thing people are like, hey, can we actually look at something? You want to show them something?
Yeah, Dave, you have it there?
Let's get up.
Let's show them what we're working on.
Are people have an idea on the case, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone's actually seen the case yet.
Oh, I don't know where it was.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have a display in it. It doesn't have buttons in it. It doesn't have a drawer in it.
Yeah, this is just.
But yeah.
Spare metal. I haven't done this before.
I've never done that before either. But yeah. Yeah. It's basically the same size as a Freya. So if you're familiar with Freya or any of our mid-size 16-inch wide, 8-inch deep products, same size. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And
then there's the prototype of,
yeah.
well, I'll answer
Oh.
to people with the drive.
Move.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, it's basically it's an actual drive. It's a tray loader, not a slot loader. It's got a little OLED screen on it, and the main board has lots and lots of functions, not all of which we'll talk about here. But I think we can maybe talk a little bit about, we can start talking about the features. It's like, will it be able to play a Redbook CD directly to a DAC without a computer?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
That makes sense. Also, will it support CD indices or markers within tracks?
All right, so
Within tracks, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know if I know what that is actually. If whoever asked that could clarify what that is. He said the old Japanese CD has them. It might be, you could probably set a marker.
Program times.
You may be able to set a marker. Yeah. Just to let everyone know, we're not planning any
that might be possible. But I don't think we're implementing that.
Yeah, we're not planning any really deep functionality. It's basically a CD transport with a few other things.
That normally those players had other buttons, or you'd have to have those buttons on the remote, or to do that sort of thing.
How about album or track titles?
So
we never
no
talked
internet
about-
connection on
no?
it. No.
Yeah, it is not an internet connected device. I can verify. There's no, there's no Ethernet. There's no wireless. Nothing on that. Oh, will it spin the CD at single speed or faster?
It's running at the single speed, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Is quiet operation a priority in terms of transformer hum, disk spin up and spin down, and the parking of the laser and lens assembly? I don't know, man. Let me just say that sounds a little... yeah, I guess you have a really quiet listening room. I'll just be polite and say that. I don't know.
It's rather quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not actually used the transport, so I can't comment on that.
And the chassis metal is very new. I haven't actually. Well, we're waiting. We don't have all the chassis pieces yet to fully put one together that way. So.
I thought we had everything. Oh, we don't have sub panels, I guess, or something. Oh no, we don't have the brackets.
Mounting brackets or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll get there, but yeah, we're not going to try to make it like buzz saw loud or irritating or anything. But I don't know how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a beta test. I would say, let me answer that. Yes, we will have a beta test. We can actually maybe talk to Ivana a bit about the difficulty in actually doing some of the things we're doing on the transport. We do want to have a deep beta test on that. So I don't know if you want to say a few things.
Well, we are in the final stages, so we are fixing intermittent bugs with firmware. The USB host, actually, that is sending the sound to external DAC. So we have things that occur maybe once in 100 times or something like that. So we're catching those small bugs. And, well, yeah, there were some difficulties. So it took a while.
Yeah.
I could go on and on about that. We used PIC32 chips and microchip that produces, right? Mm-hmm. PIC32 chips has very large software framework that is a startup point for writing firmware for all of their hardware. So naturally, we decided to use that instead of writing code from scratch. However, it's a very large framework, so it's meant to support many different chips and for many different purposes. So it's far from perfect. And we had to patch code here and there and fix some issues. So yeah, that took a while. But we're nearing the end, and hopefully, I think.
Yeah, the goal is to make the transport as compatible as possible with all the DACs
All
out
the
there.
DACs, yeah. So
Yeah, we don't want to say, hey, you have to use our unison out with our unison in, and that's all that works. We did discuss that and rejected it. We're now kind of trying to get as much compatibility as possible. With Windows, Mac, and Linux. And right now, I understand Mac's not a huge problem. Windows is being a little irritating, and Linux we need to do some more testing on. So I do know that much. Hopefully that helps. Oh boy, can we reveal the source or the manufacturer of the drive mechanism? I don't know. I'm okay with saying it, especially considering it's used in stuff that costs like 39 times, what this thing will cost.
Yes.
So go for it. Do we remember?
I think it is on a number of DACs. Stream Unlimited or something like that.
Yeah.
Based in Europe, and there were people that came out of Philips.
But it is an actual CD drive. It's not a computer drive.
It's not a computer. It is a CD drive, yes.
Yeah, and it's a tray loader.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps a bit.
And I think...
Oh. Well, okay. Actually, let me answer that because I know a lot of people have been saying, oh, it's like $300. It's $500. Like, no and no. And then people are like, well, it's $800. Like, also no. You can keep going up. This is a very complex product with actually the highest quality, stuff we can actually stuff into it. Also, it has essentially a lot of capabilities that you've never seen, including USB output as well as, SPDIF and AES output. So we're targeting $12.99. We'll see how that goes. Might be a little less, might be a little more, but $12.99 is kind of where we're heading at right now. Dave and Ivana don't look so happy, but that's all right.
That's all right.
You can always come back and ask for a cheaper one, then they can laugh because they will laugh. Trust me, when you see this thing, it's completely nuts. Mm-hmm. Will it have a USB pass-through? And in other words, does it have a pass-through from another USB device? And if it does, will it transport data other than 1644, up to other rates? Let's go ahead and tell them.
Yes, the question is yes. I mean, the answer is yes. So.
Basically.
You can, right? It will have
the information from the DAC.
Yeah.
Of what it can do gets passed to the source, your computer, and so. Well, up to 192. It's not going to go above 192. But.
Yeah. So if you actually connect a computer or a streamer into this, you can also select pass through as well as playing the nice shiny silver disc that a lot of us older people, including me, like.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we'll be able to toggle between using buttons, and we have screen, of course.
That explains
that
why.
Will show
that explains why I put an
playing.
input-output button on it, so that's one of the big things about the transport. It's not just a transport. It's going to be intended more as a digital hub. So we'll see. Maybe people think that's great. I'm sure you guys will let us know.
Then I guess, if you use the SPDIF AES out, then it's basically like an eater, I guess. Yeah. USB to SPDIF.
That's right.
Conversion.
It basically has eater functionality built into it. So if you want an eater for about 10 times what the old one cost, you can buy this and just use it as an eater, or you can also use it to spin disks and stuff. Someone just asked about USB-C. So are we going to make them happy and say this is all USB-C?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's time. And unfortunately, the USB-C is still more expensive, so it's going to be showing up in the more expensive stuff first. But it's time. And let me interject. One thing I do know about digital is USB-C is just a connector. I don't know if you guys know that, but USB 3.1, which is the super high-speed transmission standard, is totally different. It requires a whole lot of extra stuff, but we will be using the USB-C connector because it's a much better connector, and you can flip it over and things like that. Let's see. Will the transport somehow output the code to toggle those functions over USB, and will the transport have a remote control? Those functions, I assume, as whether or not you're using a USB input or spinning a disk. And yes,
right.
yes, and yes, it will have a remote control. I remember that. I remember doing that quite specifically. And we have the remotes. We have most of the metal, it sounds like. And now, once we've squashed a few of the last bugs, which, Ivana kind of mentioned it, but, squashing things that only happen one in 100 times is very difficult. So we'll get there. And when we get there, then people can try it out and see what they think.
Yeah, we've worn out. Yeah, Ivana has worn out the USB connectors on her transport testing.
Yeah, my testing was
actually
unplugging and plugging it in
more than once already.
The whole day.
Oh,
and see when it fails.
that sounds like the worst day ever. Well, even in 2020. Well, maybe not. Someone asked, will it have an I2S connector?
No.
Thank you. Yes, it will not have an I2S connection. It will not have a network connection. Why won't it have I2S?
We'd have to have a whole other board. And then which one of, 29 connector variations for that. But
Yeah, from what I understand, there's a lot of different ways to transport I2S, which is meant for internal use in a product. There's a lot of ways to transport it between devices. So we're not going to get into that game. Mike has stated that Unison is our future, and I think we all agree on that. Speaking of Mike, there's actually a question about the old gain system. For those of you who don't know what the gain system is, that is an analog to digital converter that Mike did for mobile fidelity. And I understand Dave was involved in that, so maybe you can talk to us about the gain system a bit.
Yes, Mike was. I don't know who contacted who, whatever, but yeah, just got arranged to build a converter system for them. And I know in the notes or someone's question was.
Oh,
and even I spoke to Mike about it last week. Yeah, somehow that. There's been a rumor or thing out there that Nelson Pass being involved in that first gain box, but no, he wasn't. Maybe in the later ones, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, so this is a pure question.
Right.
I mean, but
and
yeah.
When it came up, I went and just to show, dug it up.
Yeah.
Well, I was a front panel because I only have the prototype, and the prototype didn't have a front panel. That's LEDs in those days.
Wow. No OLED screens?
No.
Okay. Oh, and then so this is the gain prototype?
Yes. And cable here because it's in the second box. Was power, and I'm making noise. So we but for all hardware folks. But then we just balanced converters. There were these little hybrid modules from the Burr Brown people at the time that I guess they were generally spec'd at 16 bits, but then there was an extra pin. They said actually it had 17 bits because internally it ran at 18. And then all the Teflon boards as Stata used to do, and all clocking things in the middle.
That's completely crazy stuff.
Oh, crazy. And then, at the time, this is like what do we got? I'll put dates on somewhere. 1990. Yeah. I know, a while ago.
Yeah,
but at the time, these were like $700 a set.
Someone was asking if it basically has the inverse of the
so the filtering, so then this is the analog side.
Yeah, and then
then we on the other side, because things weren't as powerful at the time. So we had, what's this? We got 6 gate arrays and 6 DSPs.
There you go. So, yeah, but
needed that to just do what could be happen. They could all happen in one chip today.
Is it running a digital filter that's...
So it's the same. It's
analogous to the...
It is the reverse of the filter. What Mike calls the mega combo burrito or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was and is in the DAX. I saw in the questions, they're asking about the samples coming through. You can't have the original samples come through because you have less samples going out. Because this ran at 8 over, the converters. So I always, only say so much, but
yeah. Well, I mean,
on how it actually works. Some representation of the original sample, but obviously you can't.
Yeah. No, and that's perfectly okay. I don't need to know everything. I think everyone understands there's some secret sauce here. You know, we're not patenting things. You know, because we keep some things internal. That's one of the reasons you probably won't see the Super Combo Burrito filter is like, something you can run on your PC. We're not going to be doing that. And if you don't like that, I understand, but that is the way it is. So. And as far as I can answer this, the recording industry using gain, is there any interest in recording industry using gain, after mobile fidelity moved on? Not that I know of. I mean, we've kind of kicked back and forth, doing various ADCs at various levels. Nothing's really gelled. So it's a big undertaking, and honestly, it's we make kind of fun, inexpensive products, and largely, so it'd be a very big diversion for us. But now we can move on to the gadget, because we got questions about the gadget for Ivana. Since you're the mistress, I don't know, you're the person who cooked this up. So what is it expected to do, and why is it important? Maybe you can answer one or both. And Mike has talked about a bunch of things, including the pitch adjuster, a dynamic range expander, and then moving the singer's voice before and after the beat. So what is that, and where are we on that?
So we had a prototype. We still have a prototype, and we have majority of code ready. What we need to do after we finish transport is to do the hardware design and pick the right parts so that we can run all the algorithms and implement all the features that we wanted, which some of them are computationally demanding.
Impossible. Okay. Very, very difficult. How's that?
So as of now, we know it'll do pitch shifting. The other thing was expander. So we have that ready. Third thing in the question was adjust the singer's voice with respect to the beat. So that will not happen. What we will add probably
I get it.
And I already implemented that, but we still have to package everything together. That was also Mike's idea that we add a code that will detect a tuning frequency of audio track that is playing. So the idea behind that was, let's say, okay, we detect that it is 440 and we can maybe display it on the screen or I don't know if we have a screen. I just put that out there. We might not.
I
we'll
think you can assume we'll have a screen. Since we have a screen on the transport, might as well use it other places. As long as Dave's happy with that, because
that's
no,
it's been worked out now. So doing other products is not difficult.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would give some idea of how a listener might adjust the pitch. So they might want to go from 440 to 442, or we might even automatically actually adjust it to desired sample. Not sample.
I like the automatic adjustment idea.
Yeah, because and also not all of the tracks are they're not all playing at 440. They're not all tuned to 440. We actually did some tests. I used different recordings of classical music with different orchestras, and a lot of people might know that they use different tuning frequencies. So that's why we added that bonus feature to actually detect what the tuning frequency is. And I must say, it might not be always 100% accurate.
Right.
And we'll see how we will handle it. So of course, the audio track has to start playing so that we can actually detect what is playing.
Yeah.
Right. So it won't happen.
And honestly, to add a little context, we're pretty far off the beaten path here. I mean, there may be some professional level stuff that's doing some non-real time, things like this. But this is, Mike portrayed it as, I would like to create a bunch of controls for audio that you've never had before. You've had equalizers, you've had things like that, but this is a bunch of new things. And so we're still experimenting with it. One of the reasons I say I think you can assume there's going to be a screen is if we can do firmware updates to add capabilities or improve things, I think you're going to need a screen. If I go and design something that has knobs and buttons and you go, hey, I got a great new feature, and I'm like, hey, we get to add a knob and a button, then suddenly that's a new product. If we can do it on the screen, then yeah. But this is all very blue sky. I'm doing exactly what I said, I think, in one of the first chapters of the book, is never talk about stuff you're working on. So, if I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. And sorry about that. And actually, someone's asking, can you describe your early impressions of the gadget's influence on music playback? Is it something you'll always have in the chain? And if they can test the shitter. And I can relate mine, but I'd be interested in seeing what you guys think.
Well, I can only say one thing, that I used one song while I was developing that algorithm, and as a reference, and I might say that I did not want to listen to it in the original, the original version after a while, because I actually really, really liked when I shifted. I think I shifted it maybe 2 hertz up or something like that, but it did make a big difference for me. So I assume it depends on
what song was that, or is it embarrassing?
Oh, well, I guess it's not too embarrassing. It's a little cheesy, but it was acoustic guitar. I can't remember his name. It was Otmar Liebert, something like that. But it was acoustic guitar.
But it still passes Mike's test of what real music is. So yes, it's not EDM or whatever.
No, that's correct. Yes.
And guys, I'm not crapping on that. I listen to EDM a lot, so I'm looking forward to see what the gadget spits out as the tuning for that. That'll be real interesting. Dave, have you spent any time listening to it?
Small amount. I guess I'm not. I don't know. Not as I don't know.
It's funny.
The right word. Not as
Dave,
sounds too simplistic. Not too bothered by the variations in the.
Yeah,
pitches, but
Dave usually has a lot of opinions about stuff that I'm like that matters. But yeah, no, it's, that's cool.
In this case, not too much. Yeah.
I actually like the prototype. The prototype, we didn't bring it to market because it's very limited. It only kind of went up to 24.96, and was kind of struggling. Even
I was
at that.
struggling with that. 96.
And I liked it a lot. Even listening to stuff that Mike does not consider music. But it was funny. Subjectively, it made it sound more like a tube amp, more tubey, more kind of mellow, more laid back, which worked for some things, didn't work for others. But in general, I liked it. My prototype eventually died, so I stopped listening to it. But I wouldn't mind having one again. I really wouldn't mind having one that worked at up to 192 at least. But we're going to need more horsepower to do that, from what I understand.
Oh yes, you need. Yeah, the way it works. Yeah, each time the sample rate doubles, you need 4 times more horsepower.
Yeah, okay, I can see how. So you need 16 times at 192
compared to 48.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, because as far as I'm concerned, this is fairly magic. What Ivana did was, it's acoustically or sonically transparent, but it does actually change the pitch without changing the play length. So I've experienced a lot of musicians listening to it, and you turn it on and they're like, what the heck just happened here? I've never actually heard that happen before. The thing that's always killed me is it's very, it's like nothing's in there other than the pitch shift. We'll see. I mean, I'd love to get something like that out. I'd love to put it in a DAC, but I'm gonna have to talk to Mike, Dave, and Ivana and go, hey, so there's guys, don't get too excited. You won't be buying this in December, no matter if it's in a DAC or not.
Right.
But we'll see. But hey, we can talk about Unison USB, which is the next kind of group of questions. Okay. Mike, what was Mike's reaction after you presented Unison USB input finally working?
It's been very happy.
Very happy. I remember Jason's reaction.
It was big.
Quite happy.
Well, I remember early on that there were some real interesting failure modes, including one that sounded like made everything sound like garbled death metal. It was really interesting. Not great, but interesting. And then when it finally got working, and Mike's like, "This is it. We got it. It's wonderful." And I tried. I'm like, "Wow, that's a big difference." And I'm going to get eviscerated by the measurement guys because they're going to say, "Oh, how can USB and USB interface sound any different? It's just the same bits." I don't know. I really don't know. Because maybe you guys can help, maybe not. Because one of the questions is, can you explain how the Unison USB interface works and why it's better than the run-of-the-mill, XMOS or C Media or whatever else that's commercial?
I guess just in the end, it's going to be less noise, less jitter, and so on. It's because it is like even the earlier USB cards we had it's electrically isolated from the source, so that helps.
Yeah, because you measure the jitter at the DAC, right? At the word clock or the output of the USB.
For that, it'd be like the output of the USB, but the oscillators that control the rate that it's running at are on the DAC side of that isolation, so it keeps it. So that's a clean signal there.
Got it.
And I guess actual measure of jitter or whatever. Yeah, I haven't really checked one of the XMOS ones for a long time, but just I know it's a lower power implementation. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is.
But
I know it's low
maybe
power.
by a half or a third compared to the XMOS parts, I suppose.
And I think beyond that, we got to get to the stuff that a lot of people don't want to hear, which is, as far as we're concerned, implementations. I like to think, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of it is we're really focused on PCM, digital audio transport, which is 99.9% of the music out there. We're not worried about MQA, we're not worried about DSD, we're really just doing one thing. And as Dave said, maybe the location of the clocks and isolation. But yeah, I don't know. This is why I'm learning, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, I just take care to see that the signals are as clean as I can do, within reason, or budget on each thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, you can pay thousands of dollars for an oscillator if you want it to be super good, but yeah. But then we'd need $100,000 for test equipment to even see that we were getting that. So.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah. I don't know. It's like I do like Unison USB, and I think we could move on to some of the other questions about Unison, which is what was more challenging or took longer, getting Unison USB input to work, or the refinements to get it from a beta product to a shipping product? Oh my God! Please let me know.
So, well, honestly, I'm not sure at what point it was a beta product. I don't think after that. I think the first part actually took a lot longer.
First part,
because
getting it to beta.
Yeah, getting into beta, because I don't think we had many bugs after beta. Maybe just a few. But the first part took longer. Well, first there was some learning curve.
I hate you guys. Complete opposite with analog. Anyway.
I mean, yours always your first revision of the circuit board works every time, of course, right?
It kind of works.
Yeah, right.
Getting it really working, that's a different ballgame, No, yeah. I remember some of the early beta stuff was wacky.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I recall it that way too, because Mike started talking about it and then was talking about it, and then finally there's like a beta and it was really bad. And then we had a public beta and that was okay-ish. And then we had an actual working product, which has been super solid. That's it's one of the I don't want to sound crazy here, but it's one of the most surprising things we've done is like doing this USB thing from scratch, and it's actually been very, very solid. I'm thrilled. Oh, let's see. In response to the previous question, the one we just answered, was that because you had no prior audio technical experience, or because Mike and the other beta testers were very particular on what sounds good, or was it a combination of both?
Well, as I said, first we had to get familiar with things like this framework that we were using. Mm-hmm. On my end, I had to get familiar with programming hardware. To be honest, I worked as a software engineer, and it was not a big deal to dig into that framework, but then there were things like interrupts and what happens in all the registers, and there's some bugs that happen in registers that are not being accessed properly. So like for me, that was a bit of a challenge. So there was a lot of teamwork in that area.
And the microchip, there's actually almost zero documentation of the USB section of that particular part. Which doesn't help. But
yeah, welcome to modern engineering.
Yeah,
the manuals are just shrunk to nothing anymore. Right.
Yeah, or they're incomprehensible. I've been playing around with Bluetooth. Don't get excited. I've been playing around with Bluetooth, and it's incomprehensible. It's horrible. So.
Yeah.
But I guess another thing I wanted to add is when it comes to to make it sound good, when we actually made it, when we came to a point that there are no recognizable audio glitches, then that was it, because we didn't do much on top of it just to improve the sound quality.
Yeah, and I know
Just
when you
had to
got it,
make
you
it
got
work.
it. When it happened, it really felt like a product right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Cool. Oh God, here we go. Are Unison USB or other upgrades coming to the multi-bit or 4490 cards? Let me just say we don't really talk about things that are coming up, except for all the stuff we talked about that's coming up. But I mean, you can assume that Unison will eventually show up everywhere. It's just a question of in what form. We don't know, and we don't know when. There's lots of other priorities right now. In regards to the transport, what have you learned from the development of the Unison USB? What have you learned from the development of the Unison USB input helped in the development of the Unison USB output, or is USB output totally different technically?
Well, it's not totally different, so it did help to some degree, but we had to do a lot of additional steps. For example, like we use that framework, as I mentioned already, microchip framework, that did not have a good starting point for USB output or USB host.
Or the
to,
USB input.
Yeah.
No, well
It,
so there was
it
an
sort of
implement-
works, but both of them sort of work.
Well, sort of
But
work, right?
as
We
a
had
demo-
to do a lot on top of it, so that's one thing. But at least for the receiver, they had USB 1 and USB 2
Oh,
to
right,
start with. For the host or USB output, there was just USB 1, so we had to put everything together, level up, right?
Yep.
So we can support USB 2. And yeah, there are things that are different and other complexities, because now we had to take care of how USB in and USB 2 communicate with each other, and then communication with the source and output at the same time.
No, that's yeah. It's you know you guys are operating on a technical level higher than me, and so but that actually helps a little bit. A question that's actually I think fair, because a lot of people bought Bifrost. If someone has a Bifrost Gen 1 multi-bit with Gen 5 USB, will changing to a Unison USB receiver improve performance with the transport specifically?
I think.
Or is it just across the board?
Or I'm just trying to remember. Trying to remember versions of it. Gen 5, but that's the non-Unison, right?
It's the isolated C media.
C media, right?
Yeah.
No, I think there'd just be a general improvement, I would think.
That's what I was thinking, because we're trying to make the output work with most DACs.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see,
Right, yes.
Most is scary. We'll have further definition on that. And finally, with on Unison, does the Unison to Unison connection offer advantages to using just Unison one way or the other? In other words, does Unison to Unison kind of talk to each other, or is that something that we're still working on?
Having
Well, it's just a general USB receiver and a general trying to make it, by testing and working with a variety of devices, make the host be a general device on the transmit side.
So
was that a question?
There's nothing
Having-
specific to a Unison host to a Unison
it's not
receiver.
saying, hey, are you a Unison receiver?
And then do something different. No.
Yeah. Oh, you're not a Unison receiver, so we'll send a degraded signal.
If it's not
We're
a Unison
not doing
receiver,
that.
it's only 16-bit, 44, 48.
Yeah, or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
Or
So-
something.
No,
or,
yeah.
or 12 bits or something. Yeah.
Am I wrong in saying we're just trying to do the best USB, transmitter and receiver that we can do?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So yeah. no special stuff. No DRM built into that. Nothing. I know we're getting.
We'll encode it so it only receives on a Unison receiver.
Yeah, we're getting close to time. We have a ton of other questions, but what do we want to do? Do we want to burn some more, or what? You want to go to an hour? Okay, then let's keep going. I think I answered this last time. Is there a reason we only use two 5781 chips in Bifrost, other than cost? And I think I answered that and said, yeah, it's cost and space. Yeah.
It's been a you and Mike decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike and I have fights. I mean, discussions about what should be in what, and it really does come down to cost. Could we do something better for the Bifrost? Don't know. We haven't announced any upgrade yet, and on stuff like that, we will actually keep closed mouthed. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's a good one. This is perfect for you, Dave, because you've done surround stuff. Has Schiit ever considered an HDMI ARC input on something like the RAG 2?
Just because my usual reaction to HDMI.
So you love
HDMI.
HDMI.
The last place I was wearing there was one guy, software guy, but it's probably 90% or more of his time ongoing, even like 2 and 3 and 4 years after the surround processor was developed. He was full-time pretty much handling HDMI issues, even years after the product was developed, because they keep about once a year they come up with a whole new HDMI 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, whatever. I don't know if the numbers are correct. And then it's 2 point something, and then all the receivers change, and then he has to go and people ship stuff in because it doesn't work with this and that. And
I mean, I can pretty much answer that question and say absolutely not, unless it's like basically done as a drop-in by someone else, and Mike never has to hear about it, because otherwise he will kill me.
Like I said, it wouldn't be so much in our case, but if you're on surround processors or DVD players, there's literally hundreds of formats that have to be supported.
I remember
or like I've told Jason, like we had the DTS and Dolby test discs, which literally had about 1,000 tracks.
Yeah,
every single one of them different.
Yeah,
to test whether your HDMI and such is working.
Okay, we're not doing that. And let me say,
but things people would never, it's like 3.1 or 4.1 or, it's just ridiculous numbers of things that one person would. Well, I don't know if anyone ever used 98% of them.
I've used 3.1.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Maybe, but still, yeah.
Anyway, one of the things, and if anyone's wondering, if we're crazy, one of the things Mike and I do agree on is like, simpler interfaces are better. You're not going to actually, see a bunch of stuff that can't be done with buttons or with a simple screen. We're not going to be having apps. We're not going to be doing, big, crazy touchscreen stuff. We really do think that single purpose is better. And so, HDMI is a bit of a morass of changing stuff that you probably need a very large interface to deal with, and we're not going to do that.
And then
very, very long way to say no, right?
Yeah, and then there's the large licensing fees to even. You have to pay Intel. You have to pay the HDMI something association, and per box.
Mike loves paying
fees
people.
And,
or not. Okay. People are actually asking about an optical card for the Layer 3, the Jotunheim, Asgard 3. It's like we have a USB card, an optical card. I can actually answer this because Dave actually gave us it wasn't optical. It was actually a coax digital card for that. So we could do a SPDIF input card. However, we think the market's rather limited, so I'm sorry you will not be seeing that because we can't offer it in addition to USB. We just don't have enough space. If we could offer it in addition, we would be doing that. So see, I do know something about digital. And more cards. Will we ever see any new Delta Sigma DAC cards? But actually, this is in terms of Bifrost Gen 1 and Gungnir. You know, are we going to actually do new Delta Sigma stuff? Yeah, I'm pretty sure the answer is no. I don't know if we can answer that, but I don't think so. Wow. Can a single 4493 card be designed to fit both Bifrost 1 per unit and Gungnir 2 per unit?
No.
Yeah, they are different.
They're quite different. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Mechanically, very different.
Is Schiit considering making their DACs rune ready? I can actually answer that. They are rune ready, all of them already, because I did all the icons for rune, and we've been in close touch with rune. So if you want to use rune, they support our DACs, and they understand what the stuff is. And if you encounter anything where they don't actually recognize our DACs, let us know so we can get in touch with them and fix it. Hey. Okay, this is a good one. Does Schiit ever compare products from other companies to Schiit products? And if so, has there been an occasion where you're surprised in a good way or a bad way?
No, there was some comparison. Although most of mine over the years has been at shows and such, but
I can answer that one and kind of say.
There's very limited on what rooms ever sound.
Well, we also never say anything bad about other companies.
No.
So, we do some the comparison, but it's very limited, honestly. And it's like Dave says, mostly it shows. We throw things at Ivana from time to time, and she says that's cool. Doesn't support the gadget or something like that. Oh, are there any planned updates for Iggy in the future? Well. There's always updates. Iggy's an ongoing product. We could do updates. Can't talk about them. I'd love to actually look at that. But another one. How do you get on the beta shit list? Wow, a lot of these are like for me. The beta shit list. That's actually for Denise. You should probably email Denise@schiit.com and let us know that you're interested in that. Maybe you'll get a transport. Maybe you'll get something else. But yeah, we do actually want to especially work out the bugs in the transport. How many hours of listening do you do at home versus work? Okay, go for it.
Honestly, I work at home, so
there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Same thing.
Such a gimme. And mine's about 100,000 times because I don't listen much at work. It's almost all at home.
Yeah.
So. But I do go into work. No. 15. Question 15. How do you train your ears to listen for a product-worthy sound? In other words, something that we should produce versus your own personal preferences. In other words, everyone has their own preferences.
Yes.
But how do you know when it's like, oh, we should make this?
I just early on worked with some people who had some really good gear, and I just sort of did spend a little time getting me to actually learn what about it sounded good versus not and such. So that's hard. So I guess therapy actually difficult without actually having really good gear, because it was like late 70s vintage, really good Levinson gear, the big Class 8 power amps and stuff, and quad electrostatics, and big micro Schiit table with a straight line arm and such. So it was like a really excellent phono setup. Yeah. So you really do hear something better in that case. Yeah. So it's like
Ivana?
I have to get up to speed with all that.
Yeah.
I don't.
I usually rely on a consensus myself.
Yeah.
So
I tend to listen what I
mean,
like.
if I was deciding all of shit stuff, it'd probably be fairly warm and syrupy, and a lot of people wouldn't like it because that's kind of where I go. But our stuff, we're trying to be as neutral as possible, and so I actually have a lot of people listen to it, and I've been overridden, like with Magnus. I went with the consensus rather than what I preferred. So yeah, sometimes you may not be able to, I guess is the answer.
It's good. It's tight. Because one of the listening rooms, it was stacked quads with these 30-inch Hartley subwoofers.
30-inch?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh God! Yeah. Someone's actually asking, have you figured out what Mike means by sounds like ass yet?
I saw that line earlier. I was like, well, just look at the words, and it's like, yeah.
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 It means he doesn't like it, and we aren't selling it. That's that simple. Oh, here's a good one. What are your thoughts on using an FPGA DAC architecture?
It's some variation on a 1-bit thing, I guess, to do that. So
Isn't it just basically it's another way to do DSP?
we can't do the DSP that way. Yeah, the filtering and such that way, but I think various people use them to come up with a 4 or 5-bit sort of DAC approaches.
Right.
Yeah.
It's another approach. I mean, we've been doing DSP forever. Well, since the first Iggy's here, and Dave with Theta,
right,
very early.
I think it's just a different way to do it. It doesn't. I mean, I've looked at it. It seems like the cost is kind of similar, actually. So,
yeah, it's a different way to do things. For computer playback, why is there so little attention given to what comes before the DAC, meaning the computer or the streamer or whatever? I mean, I can answer that real easy and say it's because we don't make them.
That's what I was saying. Other people do that, and
I mean,
get the best you can.
Yeah,
on that side. And
my approach to computers is I buy a new Mac every 3 years or so, and I buy a new Surface every couple years or so, and there you go. There's your source. A lot of people like streamers. There's lots of great streamers out there. We totally support the streamer guys. We please go buy their stuff. We really don't want to make them, and so there you go. Oh boy. Is there anything beyond Schiit's true multi-bit that would make this even better than existing products? Are there any technology improvements? So, a little bit of a loaded question.
Yeah. No.
Remember, I will combine this with another question because someone says, "Oh, Jason said the golden age of multi-bit is still ahead of us."
No, we do still prototype and try different things.
Yeah.
What works out is what ends up in the products. But, yeah.
I think I can say yes to both. It's just things have gotten slow because it's interrupted a lot of our development. So it is what it is. We will be bringing out new products, but some of them are going to be delayed. That's perfect. This is actually a good technical question. Does Bifrost Gen 1 multi-bit discard the input data past the 16-bit level, or does the combo burrito filter use the 17 to 24-bit input?
Yeah, the filtering uses all of what arrives.
Right, and then it rounds. Is it? Wait.
Then I do. Yeah, you do. You do basically round, dither, etc. to match whatever the DAC is.
Yeah. So basically, you're going to take the full 24-bit and it's going to output 16. But that's after rounding and dithering and et cetera. Yeah. It's even I know it's like not. It's no different than a Delta Sigma DAC is going to take in 32 bits, and then essentially turn it into 2 to 5 bits. Same principle, just Yeah, higher frequency. Oh my God. Hey, how about a PCIe USB card?
Again, other people do that sort of thing. I guess, yeah.
I think Ivana really wants to write the drivers for that.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
another challenge.
Right.
You're really good at actually saying, "Oh, it's a challenge. It'd be great." I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm good." You know what
I'm
my
being
you know what my
diplomatic.
first boss, like at an engineering job, ever told me? Never volunteer.
Never volunteer.
Oh, I've
Never
never
Right.
told that here and there, and it's been the right thing to do. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So that-
I don't know if
I-
I, if
like,
I
I
said
would say
that
just
we
surrounding-
didn't
I-
have we don't
And
have
all
unison.
HDMI stuff down there, and I just
Yeah.
was only asked to volunteer once or twice, but generally just
Yeah.
just observed the other person suffering from afar. Yeah,
It can be bad.
yeah.
I'm gonna skip a couple, but actually, this is a good question. The AK 4490 and 4493, you can use an external digital filter. Have we
Yes.
ever considered doing the combo burrito on that? Because I know Theta did something like that with the PCM 67.
No, let's see. I think of. I think when I've tried. Now I've tried it once, maybe.
I know you've tried a lot of stuff I don't even know about.
Yeah.
See, it's an evil plot, man.
Or some, but even one of the shit things, like we tried it, but just didn't end up going that way. So,
Yeah, I think if I'm recalling correctly, the reason
I'm just not saying a product name, just to not focus on one. So, but yeah.
I mean, I know Theta did it, but I think that was cost constrained more than anything. But I don't know. I may be speaking out of turn on that. I think there are actually some really good 16-bit products, like we're using in Modi Multibit and stuff. So, but then again, if you wanted to measure like state of the art, then it's not multi-bit, at least for now.
Right.
We'll see about the future.
Strictly measuring wise, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the measurements are so limited. I mean, it's like everyone focuses on 1K at 4 volts, or 1K at 0 dB, but, how does it actually perform elsewhere, and at other frequencies? There's not a lot of focus on that. Well, I hope there will be a more balanced measurement. I'm editorializing, but I'm hoping there'll be a more balanced measurement regime in the future. But we'll see how that goes. Boy, oh boy, there's a lot. Oh, okay. Let's talk about digital EQ, because someone says, you ever consider doing a digital EQ to make a lower cost Loki Max? And because I've talked about the big crazy Loki in the past.
Yes.
What are the pros and cons?
Just doing it in digital. If you want to cut, that's okay because the level goes down. But if you want to boost, the level is going up. So now you need to drop the overall level of everything down to not have things clip, which then means you're losing 1 bit, 2 bits, whatever. So, so you just have to compromise the DAC just to do boosting.
So it's somewhat akin to an old analog passive EQ where you cut it and then basically
Then you have to add gain above what you would have had to get your levels back.
Yeah. So there's no free lunch.
No.
Basically. But to answer your question, we have considered that.
Right.
We've considered that. We haven't actually
Sort
done
Yeah,
anything.
we did that in the surround processor things, but we did a whole. Yeah, that's what would happen is things would get cut in digital and then they analog out because those boxes have volume control, so we just have to match. Put a matching boost on
And
the
actually-
output. Yeah.
A really good matching question is like, okay,
But then people would say, "Oh, well, then how come I can't turn my level all the way up anymore. Well, you cranked up your EQ, so yeah, you can't get that 10 dBs back or whatever amount of boost you did. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no free lunch.
Right.
I was talking with Dave earlier about this and saying, yeah, I mean, an inductor EQ has different trade-offs. So you make your choice based on what it sounds like, hopefully, and go from there.
Right. It's just, but in the same way, really, even with the analog one, so you've got to watch it.
Oh yeah.
There, it's still going to end up clipping the amp then instead of instead of the limit being at the DAC. So,
yeah.
Right.
And actually, this is actually paired with a really good corollary question, which is like, how do the true multi-bit DACs handle inner sample peaks? You know, how much headroom is there when playing back a 1644 file, peaking at 0.0 dB full scale?
Right. It's the filter.
I know.
Look at it written again here.
I know we've tested for it because I've caught it and
what
said,
number was
"Hey,
that?
Dave, it clips."
That's
27.
20. Oh, further. Oh. Transmission. Well, it says it. All I can say is the oversampling filter just does a good job of. It really is just filling in between the samples when it's oversampling, so it's not going to go over, or the level shouldn't go past any one of the real samples. So it's not to say that it couldn't. Well, if you feed the thing as a square wave, will show up as ringing, but.
And you can see it.
But that's
you can see if the ringing's clipped, but that's we wouldn't be clipping ringing except at what, the 16-bit stuff, maybe, or not.
No, if you feed it a square wave, but a square wave is actually not going to ever happen in a normal music signal.
Dude, I listen to EDM. It could.
They generate things. Yeah, something you would record with a microphone, it would never happen. But yeah, computer-generated things could do anything. Yes.
Why are you so microphone-centric?
No, I was just thinking out loud about it. Yeah.
So,
but
okay, it's fine.
But that's going to happen with anybody's oversampling filter. Well, not if. Shouldn't say any oversampling, but
I think the answer is, I know we do all the normal tests. We make sure that it's not clipping.
Right.
There is enough headroom, for that. But if
it does happen, it only is going to happen.
If you have any more information, if the person who asked this has any more information on what an inner sample, peak is. Or has a test, essentially, right. If you have a test for it, we can certainly run it and see what the heck happens. Mm-hmm. That's easy enough.
Right.
Oh boy, and the final. Here we go. Please explain Iggy's digital filter as a product of oversampling via long linear phase reconstruction and the relationship of interpolation from oversampling while using the original samples.
Well,
no pressure. We are looking at you.
That's why you have to have Ivana do more of the code. The
well, yeah, just fall back on it. Just the proprietary filter, really, and can't get into explaining exact details.
And actually, I understand very little other than what Mike has explained, which it is different than most digital filters. And
right,
I think it comes down to, do you like what it sounds like? If you do, then great, and if not, then there's lots of other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't quite understand the question. I did get partway into a master's in digital signal processing. Believe it or not, yeah, everyone's like, yeah, right. No, I did, and then that's why I left the master's program, because no, I'm good.
Right.
And that's why I'm learning here. So I'll stick to the analog, the stuff that works ish to start, and then you spend 90% of your time making it work. Anyway,
Yeah.
any last words of wisdom? It's okay. Don't.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be fun, guys.
This was fun.
Yeah. That's fun.
We'll drag like Tyler, and then people can ask him about food or something. And, we could.
No, just a lot of just try things to see what sounds good and what doesn't, and learn from that. And and then maybe with the digital, trying to relate just what you see on your instruments and such with what's going on to how it sounds.
It sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And Ivana?
Oh, let's see. Not really. No words of wisdom. Sorry.
Other than maybe don't get into algorithms or get into algorithms. I don't know.
No, algorithms are fun. I wouldn't say that. I think it's I don't know. Microchip framework was tough.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the way most things are? It's like the theory or the algorithm's great, but the implementation is.
Oh, it was
Well, yeah, that happens too. Even with some of the algorithms for Gadget, like okay, in theory it sounds really simple, right? There's just 3 basic steps, but then you have to do 1,000 other things to actually make it sound fine.
Yeah, I remember Mike at least saying that, it works, but it sounds like ass. And then, he was finally happy when it sounded really good. So, I don't know. We'll leave this then till next time, and maybe I'll drag a couple other people in, or I'll sit here with Tyler or Tony or someone, and, Tony can talk about, like, how things are actually made, and Tyler can talk about, he's officially kind of director of miscellaneous, so he's involved in a lot of things. He's also a foodie, so please hurt him bad. Other than that, I think we're good.
Bye.
bye.